Welcome. Have you ever felt lost in darkness? Imagine a life without seeing a sunrise or loved ones' faces. In this story, a man blind from birth finds hope and transformation through Jesus. Join us as we unveil this powerful miracle, a journey from despair to divine revelation. Witness how faith and God's love can light up the darkest places. Please like the video and subscribe if you like this story. Don't miss out. Watch now and be inspired.
As Jesus walked along, he saw a man who had been blind from birth. Imagine living a life shrouded in darkness, never seeing the vibrant colors of a sunset or the faces of loved ones. The man sat by the roadside, his eyes closed, hands outstretched, hoping for a few coins from passers-by. Every day, he listened to the world around him, the laughter of children, the chatter of merchants, the whispers of the wind, but he could never see the source of these sounds. His world was one of shadows and echoes, a constant reminder of what he was missing. The blind man had grown accustomed to the routine of his life. He knew the feel of the cobblestones beneath his feet, the sound of footsteps approaching, and the gentle rustle of garments as people passed by. Despite his blindness, he had learned to navigate his surroundings with remarkable skill, relying on his other senses to compensate for his lack of sight. But there was an emptiness within him, a yearning to experience the world in its fullness. He had heard stories of the miracles performed by Jesus, stories that filled his heart with hope and longing. He wondered what it would be like to see the faces of those who spoke to him, to witness the beauty of creation with his own eyes. On this particular day, as he sat in his usual spot, he sensed a change in the atmosphere. The air seemed to hum with anticipation, and he could hear the murmur of a crowd approaching. He strained to listen, trying to catch any words that might give him a clue about what was happening. And then he heard a voice unlike any other. It was filled with compassion and authority, a voice that seemed to reach deep into his soul. The voice belonged to Jesus, the one who had the power to heal the sick and give sight to the blind. Jesus stopped in front of the blind man, and his disciples gathered around him. The blind man could feel their presence, the warmth of their bodies and the rustle of their clothing. He sensed that something extraordinary was about to happen, something that could change his life forever. As he sat there, waiting in the darkness, he felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this would be the day when his eyes would be opened, and he would finally see the world in all its glory. The blind man's heart pounded with anticipation as he waited for the miracle that he had longed for his entire life. Jesus' disciples, curious about the man's condition, asked, "A rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" They saw his blindness as a punishment, a consequence of sin. In those days, it was a common belief that suffering and misfortune were direct results of personal sin or the sins of one's ancestors. The disciples, like many others of their time, were influenced by this understanding. They saw the man's blindness as a divine judgment, a punishment that must have a cause rooted in wrongdoing. As they stood there, gazing at the man who had spent his entire life in darkness, they couldn't help but wonder about the reason behind his condition. Their minds were filled with questions about justice, fairness, and the nature of suffering. They turned to their teacher, Jesus, seeking clarity and understanding. "A rabbi," one of them began, "why was this man born blind? Was it because of his own sins or those of his parents?" The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of centuries-old beliefs and assumptions. Jesus, always patient and compassionate, listened to their question. He understood their confusion and the longing for answers that lay behind it. He knew that their hearts were in the right place, even if their understanding was clouded by the teachings of their time. Looking at the blind man, Jesus saw not just his physical condition but also his spirit, his faith, and his potential. He saw a man who was about to become a living testament to God's power and glory. Turning to his disciples, Jesus prepared to give them an answer that would challenge their preconceptions and deepen their understanding of God's ways. His response would not only address their question, but also reveal a profound truth about the nature of suffering and the purpose it can serve in God's plan. The disciples watched Jesus intently, eager to hear his words. They sensed that they were about to receive a revelation that would change the way they viewed not only this man but also the world around them. In that moment, they were students on the brink of a great lesson, one that would illuminate the darkness of their own understanding just as surely as Jesus would soon illuminate the darkness of the blind man's world. But Jesus, full of compassion and wisdom, answered, "And neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him." What a powerful statement! Jesus was about to reveal God's glory through this man. The disciples were taken aback by Jesus' response. They had expected a more conventional explanation, perhaps one that aligned with their understanding of sin and punishment. But Jesus' words challenged their beliefs, opening their minds to a deeper, more profound truth. He saw beyond the surface, beyond the immediate circumstances, to the grand tapestry of God's plan. In this moment, Jesus illuminated the purpose of suffering, showing that it could be a stage for God's miraculous work. The blind man, listening to Jesus' words, felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. He had lived his entire life under the shadow of judgment, feeling the weight of an invisible burden. Now, hearing that his blindness was not a punishment but a potential display of God's power, his heart surged with an unfamiliar joy. He sensed that something extraordinary was about to unfold, something that would not only change his life but also reveal a divine truth to all who witnessed it. Then, in an unexpected turn, Jesus spat on the ground, made mud with the saliva, and applied it to the man's eyes. Can you imagine the surprise of the onlookers? The crowd watched in stunned silence as Jesus knelt down and spat on the dusty ground. His actions were unconventional, almost bewildering. He mixed the saliva with the dirt, creating a small amount of mud. With gentle hands, he applied the mixture to the man's eyes. The onlookers exchanged puzzled glances, whispering among themselves. What was Jesus doing? Why this strange method? Yet, there was an undeniable sense of anticipation in the air, a feeling that something miraculous was imminent. The blind man, feeling the cool mud on his eyes, remained still. He trusted Jesus completely, sensing the divine power in his touch. He had no idea how this mud could heal him, but he clung to the hope that this extraordinary man, who spoke with such authority and compassion, held the key to his sight. Jesus instructed the man, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam." The man, obedient and hopeful, made his way to the pool, probably with the help of others. With the mud still covering his eyes, the blind man listened as Jesus gave him a clear command: "Go wash in the pool of Siloam." The pool of Siloam was a significant place, a well-known reservoir in Jerusalem. The man, filled with hope and determination, rose to his feet. He couldn't see the path, but he knew it well. Friends and kind strangers, intrigued by what was happening, offered their assistance, guiding him carefully through the bustling streets. As he walked, the blind man's heart pounded with anticipation. Each step brought him closer to the pool and closer to the moment that could change his life forever. The crowd followed, murmuring in curiosity and excitement, eager to see what would happen next. As he washed the mud from his eyes, a miraculous transformation occurred. For the first time in his life, He opened his eyes and saw the world in all its beauty. He was no longer blind. Reaching the pool, the blind man knelt down and began to wash his face. The cool water felt refreshing as he rinsed the mud from his eyes. Then, in an instant, the world around him exploded into vivid color and light. He blinked, his eyes adjusting to the brightness. For the first time in his life, he saw the shimmering water of the pool, the blue sky above, and the faces of the people around him. Tears of joy streamed down his face as he took in the beauty of creation. He saw the expressions of astonishment on the faces of those who had guided him, their mouths open in amazement. He looked around, drinking in the sights he had only ever imagined. His heart overflowed with gratitude and wonder. He was no longer blind. The miracle had happened. His neighbors and those who had seen him begging were astonished. "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" they asked. Some said he was, while others doubted. Back in his neighborhood, the man who had been born blind walked with a new sense of purpose. His neighbors, accustomed to seeing him as a beggar, were astonished by the change. They couldn't believe their eyes. "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" they asked each other, pointing and whispering. Some were convinced it was him, while others thought it must be someone else who looked like him. The man's transformation was so profound that it was hard for them to reconcile the image of the blind beggar with the sighted man standing before them. They gathered around him, their voices a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The air buzzed with questions and exclamations as they tried to understand the incredible event that had taken place. The man himself confirmed it, "I am the man." He shared the story of how Jesus healed him, leaving everyone in awe and wonder. Amidst the crowd, the man confidently declared, "I am the man." His voice carried a mix of excitement and conviction. He began to share his story, recounting the events that had led to his miraculous healing. He spoke of Jesus, the man who had seen him, spoken words of hope, and applied the mud to his eyes. He told them about washing in the pool of Siloam and the moment his sight was restored. As he spoke, the crowd listened intently, their expressions shifting from skepticism to awe. They were captivated by his testimony, realizing that they were witnessing a miracle. The man's words were filled with gratitude and wonder, and his faith in Jesus was evident. His story spread quickly, and soon, everyone in the area was talking about the extraordinary event. The Pharisees, religious leaders of the time, were skeptical. They questioned the man and even brought in his parents, trying to discredit the miracle. News of the miracle reached the Pharisees, the religious leaders who were often skeptical of Jesus' works. They summoned the man who had been healed, determined to get to the bottom of the story. The Pharisees were known for their strict adherence to the law, and they found it difficult to accept anything that challenged their authority or understanding. They questioned the man rigorously, probing every detail of his account. They asked how he had regained his sight, seeking inconsistencies or explanations that could discredit the miracle. Unsatisfied with his answers, they called for his parents, hoping to find some flaw in the story. The parents, afraid of the Pharisees, confirmed that their son was indeed born blind but refrained from explaining the healing, saying, "He is of age, ask him." The parents, nervous and intimidated by the Pharisees, confirmed that their son had indeed been born blind. They corroborated his story to that extent, but were careful in their words. They knew the Pharisees had the power to expel them from the synagogue, a severe social and religious penalty. In their fear, they deferred the questions about the healing back to their son, saying, "He is of age, ask him." They hoped this would protect them from the Pharisees' wrath, while still supporting their son's testimony. Their fear highlighted the tension and opposition surrounding Jesus and his miracles. When questioned again, the man boldly proclaimed, one thing I do know. I was blind, but now I see." His faith and conviction were unshakable. Despite the relentless questioning, the man stood firm in his account. The Pharisees pressed him, trying to get him to admit that Jesus was a sinner or that the miracle was a fraud. But the man, filled with newfound confidence and faith, responded with unwavering clarity, "One thing I do know. I was blind, but now I see." His declaration was powerful in its simplicity and truth. It cut through the Pharisees' doubts and accusations, standing as an undeniable testament to the miracle he had experienced. His faith in Jesus and the miracle was unshakable, a beacon of light in the face of skepticism. Frustrated, the Pharisees accused Jesus of being a sinner. But the man retorted, "If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." The Pharisees, unable to discredit the miracle or the man's testimony, grew increasingly frustrated. They accused Jesus of being a sinner, trying to undermine his authority and the legitimacy of the healing. But the man, undeterred, responded with wisdom and conviction. He retorted, "If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." His words were a bold affirmation of Jesus' divine connection and the authenticity of the miracle. The Pharisees were left with no argument against his logic and faith. The man's unwavering belief in Jesus shone brightly, even in the face of their rejection. Angry and unable to refute his testimony, the Pharisees cast him out of the synagogue. But his newfound sight and faith in Jesus remained. Angered by the man's steadfast faith and unable to refute his testimony, the Pharisees resorted to drastic measures. They cast him out of the synagogue, a severe punishment meant to isolate and discredit him. But the man, though physically cast out, was spiritually uplifted. His expulsion did not dampen his joy or diminish his faith. He had gained his sight and, more importantly, a profound belief in Jesus. The rejection by the Pharisees only solidified his conviction, and he left with a heart full of gratitude and eyes wide open to the truth. Jesus, hearing of his expulsion, sought him out. He asked, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" The man, eager and believing, asked, "Who is he, sir? Tell me so that I may believe in him." Hearing of the man's expulsion, Jesus sought him out. He found him, just as he had found him before the healing. Jesus, knowing the man's heart, asked him, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" The question was a doorway to deeper faith and understanding. The man, eager and believing, responded, "Who is he, sir? Tell me so that I may believe in him." His openness and desire to know more reflected his deep trust in Jesus. He was ready to follow wherever Jesus led, fully aware that his life had been forever changed by him. Jesus declared, "You have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you." The man said, "Lord, I believe," and worshipped him. What a profound moment of faith and revelation. Jesus declared, "You have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you." At that moment, the man's faith reached its peak. He realized that the one who had healed him, the one who had given him sight, was indeed the Son of Man. Overwhelmed with gratitude and awe, he said, "Lord, I believe," and worshipped him. This was a profound moment of faith and revelation. The man's journey from darkness to light was complete, not just physically but spiritually. His encounter with Jesus had transformed him entirely, filling his heart with a faith that could not be shaken. His story stands as a testament to the power of belief and the glory of God's works displayed through Jesus Christ. As our story comes to a close, we reflect on the profound journey of the man who was blind from birth. His life, once filled with darkness and despair, was forever changed by a single encounter with Jesus. Through the touch of divine hands, he was given not just physical sight but a vision of faith that illuminated his soul. Imagine the overwhelming joy and gratitude he felt as he saw the world for the first time, the colors, the faces, the beauty of creation. But more than that, he saw the face of his Savior, the one who brought light into his life. His testimony, "I was blind but now I see," echoes through the ages as a powerful declaration of God's miraculous power and boundless love. This story isn't just about a man from centuries ago, it's about all of us. We all have moments of darkness, times when we feel lost and hopeless. But this miracle reminds us that no matter how deep our darkness, Jesus is the light that can guide us through. His love and power are still at work today, ready to transform our lives in ways we can't even imagine. Let this story inspire you to seek Jesus, to trust in his healing touch, and to believe that with him, anything is possible. Just as the blind man received his sight, we too can experience the miracle of God's grace and love in our lives. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring biblical narratives. Remember, no matter the darkness you face, there is always hope in the light of Jesus. Stay blessed and keep the faith alive. May the peace of God always be with you.